The Birthmark, by Nathaniel Hawthorne, USA. It was the final days of the last century, when the miracles of science had given human imagination new wings. Electricity and other inventions had opened the way to making the impossible possible. In that age lived a renowned scientist named Aylmer, a man who possessed deep knowledge of nature's secrets. His life revolved around chemical experiments, furnace smoke, and scientific observations. But one day, a new feeling stirred in his heart. He entrusted his laboratory to his assistant, Aminadab, washed the furnace soot from his face, wiped the chemical stains from his fingers, and went out to win the hand of a beautiful woman, Georgiana, in marriage. It was no surprise that Aylmer, a lover of science, also fell in love with a woman. In those days, the love of science was considered no less than the love of the human heart. Some believed that brilliant minds, capable of unveiling nature's mysteries, could, through their creative powers, build new worlds. Aylmer himself was unsure of this, but he had dedicated his life to scientific pursuit. His marriage to Georgiana awakened a new hope that perhaps these two loves, science and Georgiana, would strengthen each other. But in the early days of their marriage, one morning Aylmer looked at Georgiana with troubled eyes. "Georgiana," he said, "have you ever thought that the mark on your face could be removed?" Georgiana smiled.
No, Aylmer.
But seeing the seriousness in his tone, she added, "People say it's charming. I, too, consider it part of my beauty." "No, my dear," said Aylmer. "This mark might be charming on another's face, but not on yours. Your beauty is perfect, but this mark, it reminds me of nature's imperfection. It saddens me." "Saddens you?" Georgiana's voice quivered. A flush of anger crossed her face, and then she burst into tears. "If it saddens you, why did you marry me? How can you love something that causes you pain?" It must be explained that Georgiana had a small, deep red mark on her left cheek, embedded in the skin. When she blushed, it would vanish into the flush of her cheeks, but when she paled from fear or worry, it shone like a drop of blood on snow. It seemed to change with her emotions, as if it were a mirror to her heartbeat. The mark resembled a tiny human hand. Old admirers used to say it was the touch of a fairy at her birth. Some gentlemen would have risked their lives for her sake, while some ladies considered it a flaw in her beauty. A few men thought it would be better if the mark disappeared, and after marriage, Aylmer joined that opinion. Georgiana's beauty was so flawless that this single mark became unbearable to Aylmer. He began to see it as a symbol of sorrow, weakness, even death. It became a torment to him. Even when her beauty comforted him, his eyes would settle on that mark. In the morning light or by the fireside at night, he would fix his gaze on it. Georgiana began to feel uneasy under the heat of his stare. The look on his face made her cheeks pale, and the mark shone like a pearl. One day, Georgiana asked with a faint smile, "Aylmer, do you remember the dream you had last night about this mark?" "Dream?" Aylmer said in surprise. "What was it?" "When the mind is troubled, ghosts reveal its secrets in sleep," she said. Then Aylmer remembered. He had dreamt he was operating on Georgiana's mark with Aminadab assisting. But the deeper he drove the knife, the further the mark sank into her skin, until the blade reached her heart. That dream made Aylmer realize his error. Georgiana said, "I've thought much about this mark. I don't know what it might cost to remove it. Perhaps it will disfigure me or steal my health." "My dear," Aylmer said, "I've thought as well. I'm certain I can remove it." "Then take any risk and try," Georgiana replied. "Life is not worth living if this mark makes me dreadful to you. Your scientific skill is great. Erase it, for your peace and mine." "My dearest," cried Aylmer, "do not doubt my power. I will make your cheek as flawless as the other." He gently kissed her right cheek, where there was no mark. The next day, they went to Aylmer's laboratory, where he had made his greatest inventions. As Georgiana stepped across the threshold, her body trembled. Aylmer smiled to reassure her, but when he saw the unnatural glow of the mark on her pale cheek, he started. A wave of fear rose in him. Georgiana fainted. "Aminadab!" Aylmer shouted. Aminadab rushed in. Open the window. Burn the incense. Aylmer commanded. Yes, master, said Aminadab. Looking at the unconscious Georgiana, he muttered, if she were my wife, I'd never remove that mark. When Georgiana awoke, she found herself in a perfumed room. She remembered her death-like faint. Aylmer had transformed his dark, smoky lab into a beautiful chamber fit for a lady. She felt as if she were living in the clouds. Aylmer sat beside her, gazing intently, confident that his science could draw a magic circle around her into which no harm would enter. Now Georgiana waited in the lovely chamber while Aylmer worked in the lab. He tested one powerful chemical after another, but the mark remained. Georgiana read through Aylmer's journals and learned of his many failed experiments. She decided she would watch him at work. Entering the laboratory, she saw a hot furnace smoking above, machines, tubes, cylinders, and vessels that amazed her. But most of all, she noticed Aylmer himself, pale as he worked on a liquid substance. She sensed that he had been hiding his worry and fear from her. Don't think of me, she said. Whatever you prepare, I will drink, even if it's poison. Nothing is hidden, Aylmer assured her. I've given you powerful preparations to prepare your body for change. Only one last experiment remains. If it fails, we are lost. He led Georgiana back to the room where she had to wait alone again. She wished she could fulfill Aylmer's lofty dreams. But she realized his mind would always press forward in search of perfection. Hours later, Aylmer returned holding a crystal goblet with a colorless liquid. This will work, he said. He let a drop fall on a withered flower. It turned fresh and green instantly. I need no proof, Georgiana said softly. I am happy to give you my life in your hands. She drank it and fell asleep. Aylmer sat beside her, watching each breath, each flutter of her eyelids, and the marks fading with every breath. Its glow was dying. Success, he cried. He opened the window to see her face in daylight. She had turned pale. Georgiana opened her eyes and looked in the mirror Aylmer held. The mark was now barely visible. She smiled. My dear Aylmer, she said, your aim is so high, so pure, that you have rejected the best gift nature could offer. I am dying. It was true. The mark had been tied to her life, a link between her soul and mortal body. As it vanished, her breath faded into the air. Her soul lingered with Aylmer for a moment, then rose toward the heavens. Aylmer learned a deep truth. Man should not flee from the happiness woven into his mortal life. In chasing a perfect future, he had lost the present moment forever.